Andy, what's happened? What's happened, man?
Yeah, okay. So have you seen that meme of the fella who, it's a 3-part story,
Okay.
3 acts, one might even say, right? In the first act, there is a man cycling along. It's a cartoon, right? And he's cycling along happily and he's carrying a big stick. In the second act, he takes that big stick and he shoves it right into the spokes of his front wheel. Yeah. And in the third act, he's crying in pain on the floor in a heap.
Oh dear.
That's my story from Sunday 2 days ago.
Oh no. You don't look too upset about it, so it's okay.
So I'm on very strong
Okay.
painkillers. And also, it could have been a lot worse. Like, a car could have just come and ran me straight over afterwards when I was just spark out on the floor. So that didn't happen. So I am taking a positive of it. And also, as a friend who was just on the phone to me he said, great, so how are you turning this into a positive? And I thought, well, why not let's just have a podcast talking about what happened and what I'm going to do about it? Because often we, as you know, Sam, as coaches, clients get injured. Very often, it's not from the gym, is it? It's just stupid stuff outside of the gym. And even though we're not specialists in this stuff, we do help them work around this stuff, whether that's nutrition, training, right? We just help them manage with it. And obviously, if necessary, we refer out to physical therapists, physiotherapists in the UK. So, yeah, I just thought we'd talk about that.
Yeah,
right?
I'm game.
And
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you said in your email, allow the curiosity to go and I'll be fine. I mean, I was curious straight away.
So here we go. Go, shoot. What questions do you have?
Andy, what happened? Well, I suppose my first question is, was it your fault?
Yeah. So I put my left foot entirely through my front wheel.
Okay, for listeners and watchers, how do you manage to do that?
If we back up a little bit. So I took up road cycling about 2 years ago. I did that because I wanted to have a hobby to match my girlfriend, now fiance, future wife. So yeah, we previously did the Honolulu Marathon. That was my first and last marathon. I joined that because she was doing it. I thought I'd support her. It was nothing but pain. I've never been a runner. I've never enjoyed it, right? I'm not an endurance person, right? She's been endurance since the get-go, right? But not me. And then we got into the cycling. And funnily enough, you get into something, you continue doing it, and you end up enjoying it. My motivation for getting better at cycling and to keep up my cycling fitness was so that let's try not to swear here, don't become a cantankerous sod while I'm on the hills and her weighing literally half of my weight is able to just smash me. And so she will cycle ahead or she'll cycle next to me and start a casual conversation. But for anyone who's ever ran with someone, in this case it's cycling, but for anyone who's ever ran with someone and they're obviously on another fitness level, you know how they will just turn to you and start to have a casual conversation while you're just completely breaking yourself just to keep that level. And for me, I just get in a rage, right? Because I'm trying not to die here. And you're asking me about, like, it doesn't matter, right? I just don't want to have a chat. So it was to not have my worst self come out because that threatens the relationship. So... yeah, and then it was Sunday. I was by myself. I was doing some laps around the inner city here in Tokyo. And that was to keep my fitness up because I wasn't away in the mountains for the weekend. Then it happened. I had the urge.
You had the urge to put your foot through the wheel?
Yeah, I thought no. My left foot, I've got some new clip-ins. So one of these things with cycling, like I didn't know any of this stuff. I'm new to this, relatively new. I'm pretty serious about it now, but I was very new at the time. You've got some special shoes that clip into your pedals and that enables you to have a more efficient transfer of power, which makes sense. I had some new clip-ins. I thought they'd clipped in properly. The left one hadn't. So when I came to the hill, it was right by the Tokyo Tower. And when I came to the hill to put the power in, my left foot just slipped off to the front. I lost my balance, pushed on the wheel turned, foot went through the wheel, and then bam, I'm now in a heap on the floor, winded and groaning in pain. No one stopped. All the cars went around me. Thankfully,
You're true. They could have just gone over you, right?
But there's this like, it's very true. There's this like, I wasn't even going fast because I stopped at a traffic light just before. I just crossed the crossing. And this, she must be about 80, bless her. She was like, oh, Daddy John, are you okay? Right. Totters over, pulls the bike off of me because I'm literally tangled in the bike. Thankfully, it's a very light bike. It's one of these carbon fiber jobbies as they are nowadays. And she pulls that off of me, and I get up and sit by the side of the road. And then I'm just lying on the floor in agony because I'm a bit winded as well. And then this middle-aged fella, I'd say he's about 50. I say his age just because he's old enough to know better. He walks over to me and he's like, are you all right? And my eyes are closed and I'm groaning in pain, right? And I'm just not in the mood for another are you all right conversation. I'm like, mate, obviously I am not right. I'm not, yeah. Like, and I can't even reach my phone because it's on the opposite side of my body, right? So I can't call an ambulance. So I'm just like, I don't know, I'm going to need one. He starts prodding me in my shoulder and he goes, does that hurt? And I'm like, what? I'm like, and he's like, don't worry, I'm a doctor, right? And it turns out he's an orthopedic surgeon, like literally the man for this stuff, right? And he's pushing along my bones. He's like, okay, well, your collarbone seems fine. He's like, okay, so this seems fine, that seems fine. Yeah, I think you've torn ligaments. And it turned out that's exactly what I've done. So now I've got to have an operation. It's a fractured upper radius, so that's up by the elbow. So I'm in a cast for that. Think I've probably fractured my scaphoid in the wrist again. And that's just a case of, the same cast will do the job for that. And that's just a case of giving it a bit of time there. I've got to have a surgery on the shoulder. So really the question is here, what am I doing about it, right? What is the plan moving forward? What would we advise to clients in this situation kind of thing? So yeah, just trying to make them turn it into a positive.
Yeah,
you know?
I think, well, first and foremost, I know we hated the guy for 10 seconds there, people, when he was prodding you and asking if you're all right, but it turns out he was exactly who you needed at the time. So that was a positive, straight away. If you had, I'm really curious about the technique of it all, actually. Had you pulled off the maneuver correctly, what would it have been worth it? Like,
worth what? So
yeah, because obviously you were trying to do something slightly different, right? Or is it just the fact that it went wrong?
No. I had some new clip-ins, cleats they're called, I think, that go on the bottom. So I'm not quite used to the sound of them clipping in yet. And so I thought I heard a slightly different click sound on my left pedal. And so the crossing is like a slight downhill, then goes into an uphill. And I hadn't realized that I wasn't properly clipped in. So when I went to them, I stood up and went to power up the hill, and my foot just slipped right off of the pedal, just slid right forward. And of course, all my weight is forward at this point, and it goes straight through the wheel.
Now I can see that. So and the listener can definitely see that happening. Wow.
Yeah, it was just one of those. It was literally the meme, except the stick was my leg. Yeah.
It's not funny, but it
is actually funny. It is actually really funny. Like, I can laugh because my face is in one piece. I didn't lose any of my teeth. A truck didn't then drive straight over me, right? My helmet did its job because, I immediately went bam, straight on my head, but I didn't feel that at all. So I feel very fortunate, really. And the doctor's given me 4 weeks, he reckons, for the radius, the elbow to heal, which is fantastic. And then the surgery, maybe we're talking, I don't know, 3 months before, if rehab goes well, before I'm perhaps back to full strength lifting overhead. So
that's actually not so bad.
Yeah, no, that's the doctor at the one hospital who's not the top guy. I'm feeling quite fortunate. Yeah, did I mention that, by the way? I forget, did I mention about the best guy in Japan? I can literally see that place just from my window. Yeah, no, so my best mate, I've known him 20 years now. We've been in Japan the same length of time together. He works in the headhunting industry, and he works in the medical device sector. So he knows all of these people. So the sales reps and the heads of these departments like Johnson & Johnson, etc., they sell equipment to hospitals and doctors. And one of the specialities is obviously orthopedics. He knows the one guy who's head of the company who sells orthopedics equipment. And he was like, he asked him, my buddy Andy's done this, who do you recommend? And he's like, oh, this guy. He's got a surgery right by the baseball stadium. He looks after a whole load of athletes. He's head of the board of this. He's like head of this. He's a legend. So I got a referral to him today and I'm seeing him on Saturday. So again, massively lucky. Like I can literally walk there. I'll be there in 10 minutes. It's all very fortunate.
That is really, really good. Now the slight, not downside, there's no downside to that, but something that I would be interested in as someone listening to this is, well, that's great for you, Andy, but I don't have the benefit of a top doctor being opposite my apartment. If, for example, we took that out of the equation, it might take you a little bit longer to push through that. The way I tend to frame it with clients with an injury is you get 24 hours to sulk and then we solve it. And then we look at options to go around it because you do need to feel it. Like it's an emotional, especially what you've been through, like that injury is quite an emotional one, even if there's lots of positives you can take from it. I'm just curious as well. And I'm sure people listening, watching will be, had you not had all these positives, how do you feel like you may have reacted? And maybe that might let the listener or watcher have a bit more of an in with you.
If I'm very honest, there were a couple of moments when I was in the emergency room. I didn't cry, but my eyes were watery because I was just like, you effing idiot, Andy. Oh, this is going to be so shit. And it was like painful, but I wasn't crying with the pain. I was just crying with the frustration of like, damn it. But that just enabled me to mourn it. And I had mourned it. And I'd mourned it by like the end of that day, really. Pain isn't an emotional thing, right? The emotional thing is the stress from what you think is potentially going to happen. So then I just started looking into, okay, well, what's this going to be like? And then I've kind of looked at pretty much worst cases of it. I might have a limited range of motion in the future, but my strength should be there. And that in all likelihood, I'll be absolutely fine. And then when it comes to the doctor, as it turns out, I have a choice to go and see him. But the doctor that I spoke to today, he could have done it. It's not going to be a particularly complicated operation. So I'm just kind of in a situation of, okay, why not? Why wouldn't I go and see that person? You know, like I may as well for the sake of waiting an extra week. So yeah, again, just quite fortunate in that regard. And now it's a case of, frankly, I've got to walk the walk here, just as you would, just as Matt would, all of us coaches. We've got to walk the walk. This is a test. Okay, right, I've got to mourn that. Okay, what's the plan? As soon as I can put power in my legs without that pain being transmitted because I'm tensing my whole body up into my shoulder, which is still a bit, the elbow's fine, really. But as soon as I can do that, well, now I'm going to be back into the gym and I'm going to be training leg extensions, and we don't have a seated leg curl, but I should be able to get into a lying, perhaps not a lying leg curl position, but I'll be able to do single arm RDLs and I'll hold a dumbbell on my left side and that will do. I'm proficient enough with them where I'm quite confident that I won't lose my balance. That will be my start point, and then I'll work from there. And when it comes to the nutrition, I'm certainly not throwing that out the window, but I'm not in this slight calorie deficit that I was anymore. It's now a purposeful, okay, my goal is now maintenance because I don't want to potentially compromise any recovery.
Yep.
So
before we dive into that protocol and how you're going to manage that, because that's going to be hugely valuable. As someone that over the last 15 years of lifting, I've gone through some quite serious injuries as well. And, you know, there have been times where the pity party comes out because you may be, and I think this is more of a problem now than perhaps it might have been 20, 30 years ago, where you see other people on social media just living their best life in the gym with their nutrition, all that good stuff. And then there's you not being able to do your best on your best day. With how you've approached this, given that it's only been maybe 48, 72 hours since the event, 48 hours.
48, yeah.
That's a very quick, you've grieved that process. You've gone through the process of grief essentially very, very quickly. Would you say that's a skill in essence, or being able to work your way through those emotions. Because I've had it with clients in the past where they kind of get stuck at going through those phases. And if you do believe it's a skill and you do believe it's something you work on, what could you impart to someone watching or listening that perhaps has recently had an injury that could enable them to have a mindset shift or a perspective shift? What would you perhaps say?
I don't know if I'm even qualified to talk about it. I can just say what I do and have done in the past and continue to do, and what helps me. Certainly not speaking from any broader knowledge base than that. It's just a little bit outside of my wheelhouse. The one thing that I do try to cultivate is a sense of gratitude, a gratitude for what I have, gratitude for the century that I was born in, and that I have loving parents, that I didn't get any serious illness when I was young, that I live in a country that has currently in this generation peace. There's no war, that I'm able to sit and tap at my keyboard and stare into a camera and use my voice rather than, as my granddad did and his dad, climb into a mine cart, travel 2, sometimes 3 miles underground to the face for like an hour or whatever it was. Like the commute was in those tunnels, right? Before even starting work for the day. Like I read, so I try and put it in perspective of that. And then also I do enjoy reading biographies, particularly war biographies or survival biographies, because I think that also puts things in perspective as well. What this can unfortunately do is make me less empathetic to small struggles that people have. And I know that you can relate to that from something that you went through not that long ago, which we talked about actually in the interview that we did, if people want to scroll back through the podcast feed. But that's something I'm much better at now. But for me, just these things, they help a lot because I allow myself to mourn it. And then I'm like, right, come on, let's go. Solution. Let's just move forward because it could be worse, right? I could have smashed my jaw and lost all of my teeth, right? So, hey, it's a good result. It's a good result,
I
Sam.
agree. I
really
think when
is.
you have that, when you look at the situation through that lens, it's really hard to be angry. You're just grateful that it's not worse. And I think if you can internalize that feeling and sit with it, eventually you move out of this despair into, okay, this is where I'm at. This is the road that is been laid out for me. How do I make the best of this road, avoid the bumps where I can, and make sure that I'm making the best amount of progress for my current situation? And that's something that, as coaches, we help people go through all the time. And now that you're in this position whereby you're going through it quite literally. So what is that? What does the next sort of few weeks and months look like for you in terms of keeping something moving, keeping some sort of progression, and keeping some sort of normality?
So I'm not going to quite know exactly what it will be like week to week and the length of this, but the framework, I can talk about that. So first thing is we've got to identify the things that are out of our control so that we can then identify the things that are. What's out of my control is the pain that I feel. And although I do have painkillers, and it's also out of control what function I have there on this shoulder, elbow, and consequentially, therefore, what activities I can potentially do. So I am probably going to choose not to do much cardio at all. Why would that be? Well, I've heard from the doc I'm likely to be in this cast for amazingly like 4 weeks, possibly 6 weeks. But if I sweat a lot, it's going to absolutely stink. And I just don't want that.
No, he does.
And also I know that cardiovascular fitness comes back relatively quickly. So I'm just okay with it. The other thing is it's really hot right now. It's the middle of summer in Tokyo and it is really hot. I think it's 35 degrees right now and it's 4 p.m. I don't know what that is for the Americans, 100 degrees. And it's also quite humid in Japan. So, you know, I'm going to be breaking sweat.
Walking down the street.
Like exceptionally fast. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I'm probably not going to be doing that much walking either. just because I do want to manage that stink. Okay. However, when it comes to training, I'm still going to be able to, because I've got access to a fully equipped gym. If I didn't have access, I would purchase a temporary membership at one, or purchase a membership and then cancel. So I'm going to have access to a whole bunch of machines. What is in my control now is, as soon as I do feel able, I'm going to give it another few days. I'm going to get in the gym. I'm going to sit on the leg extension machine and see how that feels. Is there any transfer from putting tension throughout all of my body? Because even though we are just extending the legs there is transfer of that tension throughout the body. Does that cause any pain? I'm using pain here as the signal as to whether it's okay. And I do think in many cases that is a good signal for this, because I've got the sling, I've got the cast. This is technically helping me. This is protecting that joint in this situation. So I'm going to use pain. Is there any pain? No? Great, carry on. Okay, then the next day or the day after, or the next day, I'll see how I feel. Any effect there? If it's okay, great. I'll now try the upper body. What can I do there? So I'm going to go and sit. I've already decided in my mind. I'm going to go and sit on the Hammersmith chest press machine. I can do this with just one arm because it's just the machine is built that way. And I'm going to see if I can do that and grab the tension in my back and just press with one arm and see if I can do that without any pain. And if I can, then I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do it to failure. I'm going to do it so that it's fairly easy, fairly light. And I'll do 3 sets of that, probably to an RPE of like 5, but no more. So 5 reps from failure, possibly even less intense than that, right? Then I'm going to do a shoulder press, again with a machine, just so I'm not risking anything there, and only if there's no pain. Then I'm going to do a single arm lat pull down. So I'm going to take the regular lat pull down bar off. I'm going to put a handle on there, and I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do the seated chest supported row. In fact, I'm not going to be able to do that, Sam, because I'm in a sling and it's in front of my body. So I'm going to do a split stance cable row, a cable pull. It's going to be from the floor. I'll be leaning forward, split stance. So my right leg will be forward, left leg back. My left hand is going to be going in, and I'll be pulling in, and I'll just do those rows. Again, this is all going to be to an RPE of no more than 5. So again, 5 reps in reserve there. So no intensity higher than that. And I'll see how I feel the next day. If I'm feeling okay, I'll take that as a good sign. And then I'll rest the day, and then I'll go back the next day and I'll do legs, then I'll do upper body, and then the day off, legs, upper body. And I'll just continue like that. Leg press, I'll have to play with that because I'm going to have more. There's going to be more tension throughout the body because more load overall is being lifted. And that may cause me, because then you just tense. It
goes around the whole system.
Yeah. So I'm just going to have to see how that is. But really, that's my plan. So I'm acknowledging what I can't do, but I'm also trying to be realistic here and identify what I can do. And what I can do is a lot. And that's the training side of things. And the wonderful thing about the training side of things is, there does seem to be a crossover effect to the other side. I can't explain the mechanism, but you train the side that you can, and it does appear to have a muscle maintaining effect onto the opposite side. I've seen a client, he had a cast on for 8 weeks. We carried on. He was even in a slight modest deficit. He had a fair amount of fat to lose, so we weren't particularly concerned there about energy availability. So we were continuing to lose about 0.5 pound, 0.75 pound a week. Once he had the cast off, he returned to training. Sure, he was slightly weaker. 5 weeks later, 6 weeks later, no difference in his strength. Couldn't tell any difference, like physically looking at him. It was absolutely tremendous. Now, this is just an anecdote, of course. I've seen that many times with this crossover effect to the other side. So I really do want to get into the gym as quickly as possible to train that other side. And then the other thing that I just want to acknowledge here is, okay, so my training plan, it's not going to be what it normally would, but that's okay. To maintain takes far less than what it does to build, or what it does to maintain when you're cutting, when you're in a calorie deficit. So that's good. Don't actually have to do that much, right? So that's a wonderful thing to my advantage here. And the other thing is, let's say I can still train 3/4 of my body. Fantastic. and I've still got all of the nutrition I can look after. So actually, it's just from the ideal, I'm like 15, 20% down. There's only 15, 20% I can't do here, right? Cardio aside. So I can still look after my nutrition. Now, there's going to have to be some modifications there because I don't have my right hand to cut with. So, right? But so I'm not going to, and I'm also not going to be able to do my Greek yogurt with my protein shake and spoon that around and mix it up and have that. So I'm just having my Greek yogurts to help me hit my protein numbers. And then when it comes to the air fried chicken, which I'm quite a fan of, I could still season that, slap that in the air fryer, take it out, put it on the chopping board, and I get a nice big knife. One hand, I can still chop that into pieces, and then boom, I can just get that out with a fork. And so, yeah, really, that's the plan. Just staying positive, and I know it's going to be okay. And of course, there's a framework for what we will do my doctor is going to talk about rehab and what we should do there. And I'm obviously going to follow that advice. But when it comes to the lifting, when I am able to lift on the right side, then we'll just follow a simple framework there as well that we teach to clients of how to get back into things.
So really, the key takeaway there is the fact that, like you say, you're only maybe 15 to 20% away from what you might have been doing in the first place. If you've got the mindset that I'm going to focus on the 75, 80% I can do, well, all of a sudden you're opening yourself up to opportunity rather than closing yourself off to, well, here's all the stuff I can't do. And I think the way you outlined what you're going to be doing with training and how that sounds really simple, and what you're going to be doing with your nutrition and how that sounds really simple, I think that speaks to Rip's Body as a brand and as an ethos. It's simplicity at its core, because the simple stuff simply works. The basics will always work. And there is a tendency, I think, with people to get a little bit fancy, to overcomplicate the process because they've gone through some sort of injury or some sort of upset. And the best thing you can do is strip everything back like you've done and like you're going to do. And that breeds a level of positivity that I can feel from you. Yes, there's some painkillers going on still, but by and large, the positivity is because you've seen the situation for what it is. You've gone through that process of understanding, and you've built out a framework for how you're going to approach the next few months. And that gives you agency. And I think so many people these days lack agency. And I think that's our job, is to give people agency. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we absolutely have to help our clients understand that there is still a lot that they can do when they go through rough periods. One of the key things that we try to do with our coaching is help the clients avoid the all or nothing, which is something that people just have a tendency to slip into. Certainly the more advanced / keen they are. So those who are the most, those who have the most experience tend to fall into this the most as well, which is a shame, because the one thing that we're looking for in clients is this ability to walk in the gray, so to speak. So they're always going to have business trips come up. Like something's going to happen. There's always going to be a birthday party. There's going to be July 4th next year and the year after and the year after. And you're going to have your Thanksgiving and your Christmas and your New Year's and your vacations and all of this, right? And you've got a choice of how you deal with it, right? Most places where you go, you're going to have a gym. You could squeeze in 20 minutes if you wanted, if you got up a little bit earlier than your family or before your meeting. You could do some kind of workout. Let's say you're on a business trip and there's no gym. You could get up. I know it kind of sucks. You slam that espresso, right, from your machine, from your little pod, right? You do some elevated push-ups on the bed. You do some single leg pistol squats using your other hand to balance in the door frame, and you haven't done them in a while, and you're like, oh my God, these are hard. Wow. And there's no denying that that's got a great training effect. You do then you put your foot up high on the mattress, maybe using pillows to help you, and you do some nice deep stretch, not Romanian deadlifts, Bulgarian split squats, favorite. Right? Unfortunately, it's going to be quite high reps the stronger you are there, and that's going to suck, right? It's going to suck, right? And then maybe you're looking for somewhere where you can row. It could be under a table, maybe just not very realistic, or you know what, it may be difficult to train the back, but if you can find somewhere to do a pull-up, chin up, then you can train your back as well. But the point being, there's still a lot you can do in that hotel room, assuming you're by yourself and you're not waking anyone up, right? And then when you get to breakfast, you got a choice. It might be a buffet, but you have the choice of what goes in your mouth. Unless you're at your mother-in-law's and it would offend. Of course, you do what needs to be done in those situations, right? Acknowledging that, although the circumstances aren't ideal, there is still a lot you can do if you want to do it. And I think that if you want to do it is key, because the most common thing that happens is people get into a cycle of progressing and regressing and progressing and regressing and progressing and regressing. And all of these things, all of these quote unquote, what life happens events, they end up being a net neutral. So you end up not making any progress. You end up looking the same as you did last year, despite your efforts. And okay, maybe that's maintenance. And maybe you're happy with that. And that's awesome, right? But if you are frustrated with how you look and you are wanting to break that plateau, it may be that you don't really need to do anything different on your quote unquote perfect weeks. You need to get better at walking in the gray when circumstances aren't perfect. You need to take responsibility for the choices that you make when you are away, because otherwise you're just going to stay in the position that you're in. And for many of us, it's a case of being carried away on this tide of decline, which doesn't lead to a good place.
I talk about it a lot with clients, and everything you've said there, I want to echo 1,000,000%. And I think it boils down to your identity and what it is, who it is that you are stepping into. Because old you makes two decisions. They make the one that keeps them where they are or takes them backwards. They don't make the one that moves them forwards. And that's irrespective if for 2 weeks you crushed it and then you go away for a week and you go back to where you were 2 weeks ago. That's because you've not fully stepped into the identity of, I am someone who will do X, Y, and Z in this situation. You haven't cultivated a decision-making framework that allows you to live that way. Our job is to give you the tools to make the correct decisions given any situation you're in. And that's individual. The mother-in-law that you brought up, like if you know that's going to be a contentious problem, then you do what needs to be done for the family. If you're on a work trip with the lads, the guys, and you have like, you usually have 5 beers, is it really going to make a dent in anyone's enjoyment if you have 2 and then drink a diet soda for the rest of the evening? Unlikely. That's the kind of shift of identity and decision-making that we're looking for on a consistent basis, because it's those little ones that add up and make the big difference over a long enough time horizon. And when we see clients start to make that shift, it's the most pleasing aspect as a coach, because they will feel more motivated. And I see it in check-ins. They say, I'm really motivated this week. I said, no, you're not. You're taking really good actions and now you feel motivated. People get that cycle the wrong way around. And I think stepping into that identity, having a decision-making framework, that's the key.
Absolutely. You mentioned that you've had some injuries in the past. Is there one that comes to mind?
Yeah, I had one recently, just 3 weeks out from my shoot. I've got a reoccurring neck and trap issue, which I injured during COVID, just before the lockdowns. So I couldn't go get it sorted. And so I was training from home. Yeah, I know. So I did an incline barbell press and I over retracted my scapula and I was going for a personal best and I was an idiot. That's okay. I ruined it. And then we went straight into lockdown, which was good in the sense that I could rest, but I couldn't get it looked at. And so it just comes up every now and again if I don't deload properly or if I don't just watch it. And about 3 weeks before my shoot, it just went. I couldn't train the right hand side properly from a pulling motion. I couldn't do any overhead pressing, couldn't do any proper pressing for about 10 days. 3 weeks out from a shoot. Now, I had a choice to make. Either I accept it and do the best that I can with what I've got, or I push the shoot back. There are lots of reasons why, for me, I didn't want to push that shoot back. I had set a deadline. I'd set a goal, which was important to me, which other people looking in might have gone, that's just silly. Just move the shoot. But it was important to me. So I kept the shoot date. I rested that side of my body and I worked everything unilaterally. And let me tell you, my legs have never been worked so hard in that 10-day period, I absolutely annihilated my legs and they looked great. Like that benefited my legs as a result. I swapped out an upper body day for an extra lower body day. I think I trained them 5 days in 10 days, which is a lot of volume to put through the legs, the intensity that I was training at. But I made that shift mentally to go, right, I can't do anything about this right now, but all the other areas of my shoot prep, about to go from a 9 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. And then after the rest, I did a light week. And then the week before my shoot, I could train it. But I could have just, it would have been understandable for someone to throw in the towel, cancel the shoot, or move the shoot back. And I'm really proud and pleased that I didn't do that. I think that's a mindset that has been cultivated over years through having coaches myself. I think you do need an outside perspective to help you see the bigger picture. And so, yeah, that was a recent one. So you and I have been, although mine was almost incomparable in terms of the severity, but I think everyone goes through their own initial, like, Jesus Christ, this is so frustrating. Why has this happened to me? Even though it's really minuscule in the grand scheme of the universe. But how you internalize that and go through that grieving process and then step out of it. Like for me, it happened in a matter of hours because I was either going to go across the road to McDonald's and smash it, or I wasn't, because I needed to make a decision about the shoot. And I decided pretty much in the moment what I was going to do.
And you got shredded. And we're going to come on to that. We're recording another end about that because we do want to talk about your shoot. I was looking through the photos earlier. Chef's kiss, man.
My best look to date, for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you say?
Yeah.
I'd say so. Yeah, man, you're looking really good. I would very much like to dig into that for people. So, yes. Is there anything else that we should talk about on this one?
I suppose the only other thing I would maybe want to know is, like, do you feel like there's going to be any longer term effects, or has it put you off cycling? Are you nervous to get back on the bike?
No.
We could talk about that.
No. I was just double checked that I'm clipped in, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it going to make me nervous? I think you've just got to try and see. I don't think so. Because it wasn't like I was going fast. It wasn't that I was cycling like an idiot. There was nothing there. I was doing everything right. It was just a freak accident. And no, I don't think it's going to put me off that. No. I did mention actually just before about a framework of taking people through. So let's say, okay, so mine is very clear. I've got medical help here. I'm going to be told exactly what I can and can't do. But there's probably going to be a time where I have, issues come up. Or there may be a time for you, dear listener, where something hurts and you're unsure what to do. But it's not quite at a level where you want to go and see a physical therapist yet or a sports specialist doctor yet. You just want to see what you can do. Because very often when things happen, we just get these acute injuries and just a little bit of rest is just enough to heal themselves. And it's just a case of training around that until you're fine. And so I'd just like to talk people through that framework that we share with clients about training around injuries. I've got this written here. I've pulled up the template that we share with clients on this. I just want to say this is a checklist that I've got from friends who are doctors. They do this, so it's been checked by them, but we are not experts in this. And of course, follow their advice over ours. But you're going to see, this is pretty much common sense stuff. So ideally, you want to get back to movement as quickly as possible after an injury. And pain can be a very good guideline. And so when you're looking to train, when you're looking to modify things, the first thing, if you have had pain when you're lifting, have a look at your form and see if anything looks off compared with the form examples that we share. For clients, obviously, we've got this in the spreadsheets, but for those who are not clients, if you go to ripbody.com/programs, there's a tab in there called Training Exercise Database or Exercise Database, something like that. We've listed up something like 50 odd exercises there, linking to different YouTube videos of what we consider really excellent form for that exercise. So film yourself, have a look at that, see if you spot any differences. It might have been a form issue. Might not have been. Another reason that you may have injury or pain you're doing something too often. Instead of doing it 3 times a week, could you reduce it to 2? So look at your frequency. So first one, form. Second one, frequency. Try reducing the frequency. Third one, can you swap the exercise for something else? So let's say that you are doing preacher, easy bar, bicep curls, and you're feeling it in your shoulder. We don't need to go into the biomechanics of why that might be, but you're feeling it in your shoulder there, okay? It's causing you discomfort, and it continues to cause you discomfort when you go really hard there. But you want to go hard on your biceps because you love a sick pump in your biceps, right? We get it, yeah? We want that sick pump still. What do? Do you just not do your biceps anymore? Or do you keep going through this pattern of just carrying on being injured because you love the easy preacher curls? Well, no, you ditch that, go to dumbbells, see if you can do dumbbells in the easy preacher position. It might just be the easy preacher position. Swap it out just for standing dumbbell curls. See how that is. Incline dumbbell curls. See how that is. Hammer curls. See how that is. Maybe you've got a machine that does it. So swap the exercise out. See how that goes. Another thing you could try. So far we've got form, frequency, and exercise swap. Next one is load and reps. So sometimes it's that we have heavy loads just piss us off or piss some bit of our body off. You can lower the load, which means that you'll then increase the reps that you do to reach equally close to failure, and it will be just as effective for muscle growth. Now, this is assuming, of course, you don't continue to have pain, but if you don't, lightening the load and doing more reps can be very effective. Next one, range of motion. Myself, even when my shoulder was good, who knows how it'll be. It may even be better than it was before. I can't do direct overhead pressing anymore. I don't know why. I don't know, some injury from something somewhere. I have to do it at a slight angle. I do machine overhead presses at a slight angle off of 90 degrees. And also for dumbbell overhead presses, I do them at a slight angle off of 90 degrees. And I do half kneeling landmine presses. So the tension is mainly on the shoulder, not the chest there, but it's not going vertically upright. That allows me still to hit that shoulder really well, but I've just modified the angle of motion. Another one could be the range of motion. Let's say that you have a pain when you're going particularly deep. Try not going as deep, see if that helps. Yes, we want as full of a range of motion as possible, but if that causes pain, don't go quite as deep. If it's the other end of the range of the motion that causes an issue, okay, well, stop slightly short of full extension there. So range of motion. So far, we've got form, frequency, the exercise swaps, manipulating load and reps, and then range of motion or angle of motion. Next one, tempo. So continue to the same RPE or RAR. So continue until you get equally close to failure, but use a tempo. Wouldn't generally recommend this as the first port of call, but you could do, say, 4 seconds and then 4 seconds when you're contracting, and then you're not liking that idea, right? It's going to be a bit painful. It's going to be tough rather, but this can allow you, while you're recovering, to still have a good stimulus in the muscle. But obviously it's going to need to be at a lighter load. And really the last thing to consider is complete rest. So just to recap then, we've got form, frequency, swapping exercise, manipulating load or reps, range of motion or the angle of motion, tempo, and complete rest. And so anyone reading, if you want me to send over that template to you, just send an email to andy@ritbody.com. I'll happily share that with you. Yeah, can you think of anything to add there, Sam?
No, just to reiterate that's the process we go through with clients. Like we are that systematic. It's a very thorough process of, this is a situation. You give us as much information as you can give us about what the injury is, where it is, what the pain levels are, what we can do to work around it. And then we make the best decision that we can for you based on that criteria. It might be that we go through that list systematically, but it might be that a specific adjustment that we recommended there is more beneficial to you in a certain instance. So if someone is out there struggling with that injury, don't feel like you have to go through that checklist in that order. If something feels like it's going to make more sense to you, try that one. The important thing is to try one of them before you go down the rest route, because body likes to move. And quite often, if you rest it for too long, it gets a little bit stiff, and then you would mistake that for, oh no. And so try to get blood around the muscles, lubricate the joints safely. That's the only thing I would add.
Yeah, like the surgeon today, he's saying, what we're going to want to get you into rehab and doing a rehab as soon as possible after, for precisely that reason. So, yeah, look, bit of a strange one, this one, but thought we'd take the opportunity. Thankfully, the voice dictate feature is pretty amazing now. And they're in 2025, and I've got a little button on my Mac that can do that for me. Yeah, I've just been emailing people as normal. I don't think they will have known any difference at all. So I'm still continuing to edit the Muscle and Strength Pyramid for books. The 3rd edition's here. So I'll be doing that after this call, Sam.
I'm really excited about that on a side note. So that's good.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll give you access once we've got the rest of the text all ironed out. So yeah.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Peace.